I'm about to flip this 22-year-old dirt bike for a profit, and this video is going to cover the whole process. You'll see the exact steps I take to clean this bike up, replace these spray painted body panels, and get it relisted on Facebook Marketplace so that we can have some extra cash. As you can see in these close-up shots, this bike is disgusting. So the first thing we're going to do is run by our local car wash, unload this thing, and get it sprayed down. Typically, the steps I'll take at a car wash for a bike like this is using the hot rinse to blast all the mud off, soaking it down with a pre-soak, and then giving it a really good scrub down with a contact brush. I'd like to say at this point there's a function in letting the soak dwell, but to be honest, I just wanted the cinematic clip for the video. After we got done taking our video, we went ahead and sprayed this thing down so that we can get it loaded back up and take it home. Alright fellas, we're back in the garage with this 03 Honda 150, and I think this one is going to be a really good and really quick flip. So this bike looks pretty good if you look at it from a distance, but when you get close, these plastics are cooked. Someone just took a rattle can to this, so this looks terrible. It's flaking off. You have overspray up here, but luckily we have just the solution for that. This is a full set of black Meyer USA plastics that we are about to swap onto this CRF 150. The only thing we don't have is this front number plate. I picked these up from the guy that I actually got the bike from. He threw them in for an extra $100. So all in total, we should be in this bike for $1,300. But since we don't have this number plate, I'm gonna take this one off and we are going to spray it with this SEM color coat. And I'll show you guys my process for doing that. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started ripping this thing apart, getting these plastics off and getting these new ones on. All right, now that we got all these plastics off, set those to the side, and I'm actually gonna keep those because it's always great to have spares. You know, later on, I may find one that has a broken front fender, and now I have a good one. But before we start throwing these on, this tank is disgusting, and especially this air box, all this. So I'm gonna give it a quick wipe down. You don't have to go overboard with this stuff. Just, you know, it's always nice to, if you have it apart, clean it up while you're in there. Now we can go ahead and throw these plastics on. I just realized while putting these plastics on that these pieces have to be swapped over. So this one stayed on the bike, but this one was attached to the old side panel. Had these two screws in it, right here and right here. And when I go to swap it, you can see these screw holes are not there on the new one. So my thought process is that we're gonna lay it right here and plastic weld it to this panel. First, I think I'm gonna attempt to use this plastic welding gun that uses these small staples. And this is one I just picked up on Amazon, and if you guys are interested in it, I will throw it down in the description. It's pretty cool. It's definitely already paid for itself. I think it's like 20 bucks. These things are super simple to use. So this is what the staple looks like. And what it's gonna do is heat up this portion to where it's glowing red, hot, and you simply are just burning it into the plastic. So it slides into there. And when you pull the trigger, yeah, so there it goes. All right, there's the first one. I think we may just try to throw a few along this edge. Because it feels really solid, those staples in there. When you use this plastic welding tool, you want to go ahead and make sure that you cut off the end of these staples, because if you rub your hand over it, they will definitely cut you. I've done it to myself a few times. So all I'm doing here is cutting these off, and then we're going to throw this on and go ahead and start painting that front number plate. I'm going to go ahead and start laying some paint on this thing. All we're going to do is take some spray weight glass cleaner, get a quick spray, blue shop towels, lint free, Clean this thing up just a bit before we start sanding on it. And all I'm using for this is a gray Scotch-Brite pad, and we're just gonna scut this up to help our SCM paint stick. You wanna really make sure you get in all these indentions well. That's where I've noticed in the past that when I get ones that have been spray painted, it's typically areas like this that are curved or have sharp corners. They're typically where it starts peeling. So I'm gonna pay extra attention to go ahead and sand those down very well. All right, now that we have this sanded down, we're gonna go ahead and clean it up so we can start throwing some paint on it. Like gets a couple minutes to dry off, I'm gonna go ahead and shake up our paint. We got our paint mixed up, so I'm gonna go ahead and start applying this in light, even coats, allowing roughly 5 to 10 minutes between coats for it to flash off. That's why you should always test your spray cans off the piece you're painting before you do it. No clue what that is. That looks like almost straight water. Now we have some paint coming out. This is a good learning experience though. Now we're gonna go ahead and clean this off. Now that we have our can spraying correctly, we're gonna start laying these coats down. For this first one, it's gonna be super splotchy, but we're just trying to introduce this paint to the panel. And that's about all I'm gonna do. So it is 5:34. We're gonna come back around 5:40 and we'll throw on the second coat in about 5 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead with our second coat. It looks like we should get by with 3. So we're gonna give it about 10 minutes since that one was a little bit heavier. And then we'll put our third and hopefully final coat on. It's looking pretty good. We still have some splotchiness here, especially down here. I need to hit this more along the edges. We also need to try to get in that bolt hole. Let me touch that up one more time, but I think we're gonna be pretty good when this dries. Plastics are on. We got these swapped over on both sides. And now I just found this in my parts pile. Which appears to be, if they're not ruined, because they've definitely been sitting there for a couple years at least. Looks like we have a graphics kit that's gonna fit this thing. So what I'm gonna do now is take our glass cleaner and give this thing a good spray down on all these plastics. And then I'm gonna come back and hit it with some isopropyl alcohol to prep it, so maybe those will stick better. All right, we're gonna give that just a few minutes for all this to dry off. And just look at that. That is why, even though this is a brand new set and we had already cleaned it with the glass cleaner, that's why you hit it with alcohol. Look at that. It may be tough to pick up on camera. That's a bunch of grime that just came off. All right, for these graphics, I found the installation instructions, and unfortunately, I do not have a spray bottle with some sort of soap solution. So we're just gonna attempt to do this with only a heat gun. We're gonna try to throw this on. This one went on, but this is very likely user error. I got a lot of wrinkles in this one, so we're gonna try to make this one a bit better and let you guys watch. All right, well, certainly not perfect. I don't know if I got off a bit here because, you know, it looks like it doesn't fit very well. But also, I mean, this is lined up. Seam is lined up with where the plastic ends. That's almost lined up with the corner. So maybe it's just some variation with how these graphics are made, or the plastics, or maybe it's user error. I don't know. I'm not very good at putting graphics kits on, but I think this will be acceptable for what we're trying to go with here. So one thing that I've always been told to do after putting stickers on like this is, if you have your heat gun, go over the whole thing to activate the glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this whole thing. So I have a lot more graphics to get on, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this off camera, and I will come back once it's done. And for you, it'll be just like. So now we have all of our graphics on. They also actually turned out pretty well, considering that I'm not very good at doing that. The only one bad one is this one. We got some wrinkles and bubbles in it, but I figured it out by the time we got to this side. As you can see, that one's pretty smooth. All these are smooth. So now we're gonna get to dressing this thing up. And as always, we're gonna use this SC1, and it'll be linked down in the description if you wanna grab some. I love this stuff so much, I buy it by the case. We're just gonna start with these faded black plastics. As you can see, like on this air boot right here. It makes them look a lot better. I'm also just gonna dust that right there, and we'll wipe that off so it doesn't smoke up or anything when we go to start it. But I'm also gonna hit this tank, because it's looking pretty faded now against the new black plastics, as you can see. But now it's not noticeable. Also, on these black exhausts, I'll lightly dust those. Same concept as the header pipe. You want to wipe them off before you go to start it up. And I believe that's looking pretty good for the plastics. So I'm also going to hit these tires just like a tire shine. And that should do it. So now that it's looking pretty good and it's all cleaned up, I'm going to get this pushed up against the wall, and then we're going to take some pictures. We've got it pushed up against the wall. So now I'm going to line this up and snap a few pictures. And as you can see, I have this leaned up against its handlebar right now. I do that because I kind of like it to be standing straight up when I take my pictures instead of leaned over on the kickstand. I think it helps the bike look a bit better. Now we're going to flip it around. And that'll do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing posted up. And once we have a buyer on the way, I will come back and pick up right here. So guys, unfortunately, I couldn't get you any clips of the bike being sold just out of respect for the buyer. But as you can see, we have sold the bike, and we are back to give you guys the breakdown on this flip. So if you remember from earlier in the video, we purchased this bike for $1,200. We had an added cost, including those plastics, of $100. We sold this bike for $2,100, giving us a profit on this flip of $800. So if you guys want to see more clips like this and more flips, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below on what you'd like to see next. I'm thinking of doing a series on flipping dirt bikes to something like my dream car. If that's something you guys would like to see, be sure to comment down below and let me know.